Hey, what's up, everybody? Brody Gonzalez, and I am doing a Tuesday team take. Today's team that we're going to be talking about are the Georgia Bulldogs. This is my first video, so the reason why I'm doing Georgia football first is because they should be the favorites to win the SEC this year, and they just won the SEC last year. And plus, I'm just going to bring up everything that their fans are afraid to admit. I am a Florida Gator fan, so I am not hating. I am a college football fan as well. I love Georgia. I love Kirby Smart. So I'm just going to be pointing out things that fans are a little bit afraid to admit. So what we're going to be talking about today are their pros, their cons, and then I'm going to give a prediction at the end of what I think their record is going to be. Are they going to win the SEC or are they not? I don't know. We'll see. So starting off with the pros, I'm going to go with number one, the biggest thing of all is that you have Kirby Smart as a head coach. And as long as you have Kirby Smart, you know that your team's going to be disciplined, your team's going to be competitive, and you're always going to compete for an SEC championship game. I think it was the stats were like 5 out of the last 7 years that he's been coaching there, they've been to the SEC championship game. So, you love that. You love having that feeling as a fan that you're always going to compete for an SEC championship with Kirby Smart. Even in a down year, like last year, all the fans are saying that last year was their down year. And I mean, a lot of games were a lot closer, and they're not Georgia's used to a lot of dominating teams, beating them on the line of scrimmage. And last year was kind of a testament that, that there was a lot more adversity that they had to go against. And still, Georgia, through all of it, was able to win an SEC championship game. So that just goes to show how good the coaching is at Georgia and just how deep the talent is at Georgia, which brings me to my next point. You've been in top 5 recruiting for the last 5 years. And I don't think you were ever 5, so top 4. And with that, Kirby Smart has the mindset of reload, not rebuild. He's not looking for, what can you do this year? It's what can you do 2-3 years down the road to help Georgia football. And that's one of the things I love about Kirby Smart is that he's never looking to rebuild. He's always looking to reload. He wants to load up on depth. He wants to develop the players and get them ready for the next year or next man up. So, them being, good at recruiting, getting all these players, like they just signed Jared Curtis. Jared Curtis, a 5-star quarterback, just committed to Georgia over Oregon. That says a lot. Oregon's got a great facility. They're winning. They're in an easier conference than the SEC. And Jared Curtis still decided to come to Georgia. So I think that is a great sign, having Jared Curtis, because now he's going to be able to recruit a lot more talent to Georgia. I mean, Georgia's already getting talent, but now he's able to possibly talk to 5-star receivers, 4-star receivers, and possibly get them to come over and be like, hey, this is the future of Georgia right here. Come play with me. Let's go win national championships. It can be a little intimidating watching Georgia, what they went through last season, and being in the SEC, and the SEC is just wide open this year. I mean, the amount of teams that have brand new coaches, it's going to be wide open, so it could be a little intimidating going there when you have Oregon that, is kind of set up an easier schedule, Ohio State, Penn State, and then the ACC, it's an easy conference. So the fact that Georgia was able to pull Jared Curtis, and they're still getting recruits committing every week. I think last week they had 4 commits last week, and so they're jumping up again in the recruiting. They're probably going to be top 5 again next year. It's just a great sign for Georgia, and it just goes with their reload, not rebuild kind of mindset. Another thing I like is what they did in the transfer portal. Last year Georgia led all of college football with drops by the receivers. And so what they do, they went in the portal. They went and got Noah Thomas out of Texas A&M, which I think is a great pickup. I think he'll be able to help out with the wide receiver group. And then I think he's going to be a game changer for Georgia. But Zachariah Branch, I've been watching his highlights since high school. I mean, this dude can ball. And you just got to find ways to get him the ball on offense. Like, he's not a very big receiver. I think he's only 5'10". But he's a short, stocky, fast receiver who you want in the slot. And it's going to be a mismatch with the linebacker. It's going to be a mismatch with the safety. So Mike Bobo is going to have to find ways to get this guy the ball. And he's going to be on the return, obviously. He's going to be on punt return probably. And you just need to find ways to get Zachariah Branch the ball in this offense just so he's able to get an open field and make a play, because he has the chance to take a 3-yard screen for 75-yard touchdown. That's just how good he is, how electric he is. I think USC, which is crazy because Lincoln Riley's there, and I don't think they used him quite as good as other teams would want to use a Zachariah Branch kind of receiver. And so, it's kind of weird. I'm kind of comparing him to a Florida Gator Kadarius Toney. Just, smaller guy, but able to just take the ball and make people miss and score long touchdown runs. He's going to be a great addition to the portal, or to Georgia, and it's going to help them out a lot. Another pro is that their schedule is a little bit easier than last year. Georgia fans want to say that their schedule is the hardest schedule last year, and I disagree, just mainly for the fact that Georgia was favored in all those games. Yeah, you did go to Alabama, and it was a night game. You did go to Ole Miss. You did go to Texas, also night games. But you were favored to win those games. You were very favored, heavy favorites to win those games. You're Georgia football. It's not a tough schedule when you're favored to win every single game. And so, this year, it kind of, switched. So now Alabama's coming to Georgia. Texas is coming to Georgia. Ole Miss is coming to Georgia. And I think, the hardest away game they have is at Tennessee. Third game of the year, which Tennessee just got rid of Nico. What's that Appalachian State quarterback going to do? Is he going to be a baller, or is Tennessee kind of going to be on that decline? I don't know. We'll see by the third game of the year when Georgia goes to Knoxville, just how good Tennessee's going to be. But the schedule is more favored for Georgia to win more games this year. So that's another pro. Another pro for Georgia is Carson Beck is out of the offense. You can ask anybody that I talked to last year before the season started. I told them Carson Beck was not going to be good. I watched, a lot of his games the year before, his first year as starting quarterback, and I thought, the ability of Brock Bowers and, Ladd McConkey is what made him look good, because a lot of balls were underthrown, a lot of balls were behind. That Auburn drive specifically, I think 2 passes were behind Brock Bowers, and Brock Bowers just made, outstanding catches, spectacular catches. And that's what ultimately helped Georgia keep driving and eventually ended up beating Auburn in a close game. So I knew Carson Beck was kind of on a decline. Georgia fans will be delusional and say, well, how could he be trash if he has the highest completion percentage and blah, blah, blah. See, they're not watching the game. They're just going off statistics. You have to watch the accuracy, how the team responds to him. And, Aaron Murray even admitted that, the locker room was kind of divided between him and his teammates because he was more focused on being famous than, being a Georgia quarterback. So the fact that he is out of the offense now and Gunnar Stockton is coming in. I know Kirby Smart likes to do this whole, we don't know who the starting quarterback is, but I think the whole world and Georgia fans know who the starting quarterback this year is. It's going to be Gunnar Stockton. He had pretty good games. He came in against Georgia, and he did what they had to do to win. And the team rallied behind him. They were, all for Gunnar Stockton. And I thought he did pretty good. He made one mistake. Reps will come. Confidence will come with reps. And the experience will come with more reps. So he did what they had to do to win that game. And then he went into Notre Dame. And I thought he played a pretty good game. Georgia overall did not play a pretty good game. And that's ultimately why they lost 23-10. But Gunnar Stockton is going to be, I'm going to compare him to more of a Jake Fromm quarterback. And so if he can just not turn the ball over, keep the sticks moving, and finish in the red zone, Georgia will be a really good football team this year because their defense is stacked like it is every year. Zion Branch, Zachary Branch's brother, is now the safety. And, of course, they got a really good corner in KJ Bolden. So Georgia's defense is going to be good. Their special teams is going to be good. I was actually able to go to some of their spring practices this season, and Kirby is just constantly on them. I mean, every play, he's yelling at somebody to be better than what they just performed. And that's how you create a good team right there. He's also creating a good culture. NIL and everything, people, they can just transfer there just for the money, just for the awards that they're going to end up winning that year. And he was taking people's NIL money away because he told them to wear black socks to practice, and they weren't wearing black socks. So that's just going to show you're not better than everybody on this team. You're not going to be a one-man team. This is a full team. And he's creating that culture early so people understand, come fall camp, we're all on one mission. The cons, and again, I'm just playing devil's advocate. I'm just pointing out the things that Georgia fans won't really want to admit. And we're going to start with Gunnar Stockton. Can Gunnar Stockton do what it takes to lead Georgia to a national championship? And I mean, when teams load up the box and they force Gunnar Stockton to throw the ball, can he throw a really good game? Can he throw receivers open? Can he put it in the spot that it needs to be put in? Can Gunnar Stockton throw them a win? And that's a big question. When it comes to attributes and everything, I don't think Gunnar Stockton is better than Carson Beck, even though Carson Beck's not good. I think Gunnar Stockton's more of a leader than Carson Beck, and again, that's why I compare him to Jake Fromm. Jake Fromm didn't have the greatest arm strength, the greatest accuracy, but he was a great leader. He was able to get people lined up, and that's why Jake Fromm started over Justin Fields, and plus Justin Fields was a freshman. I still think Georgia should have started Justin Fields. I think they would have won one more national championship if they would have started Justin Fields, but that's just my opinion. So can Gunnar Stockton get it done this year? I don't know. Staying with the offense, Mike Bobo. Is he a good offensive play caller? A lot of people have problems with him, and can he get Georgia to the, on a third and short as opposed to being 3rd and 8. Their percentage when they were 3rd and 8 was not really good, especially against Texas and Notre Dame. They were horrible. So can Mike Bobo call a good game plan? Can he set Georgia up for success and getting them to 2nd and short, 3rd and short off a good first down play? Another con, Georgia led last year in most drops. Their receivers, they just kept dropping the ball. And, Dominic Lovett's not there and Aaron Smith is not there. So who we have left is Kobe Young, who ended up getting in trouble, missing a lot of the season, didn't really contribute last year. And you have Dylan Bell, who was part of that receiving core, who kept dropping the ball. Can he step up and be the receiver that they want him to be? And then you have Zachariah Branch, who could help out with that. Noah Thomas, who could help out with that. But can these receivers get back onto the level that they're supposed to be on? Because this is Georgia football we're talking about. This is supposed to be the best of the best. They develop talent over there. And so are they going to limit the mistakes? Can Georgia go from, leading college football in drops to fixing that mistake and now they're catching everything? Can they keep the sticks moving? Can they make plays? Can they get open? And so that's a big question. I'm going to bring it up. I think everybody agrees with me when I bring it up. People don't want to bring it up, but I'm going to bring it up. Can the Georgia football players stay out of trouble? Can they stop speeding in Athens? I was just in Athens a couple months ago. Where are you speeding? There's no open roads. It's all like a town feeling. There's stop signs and stoplights everywhere. Where are you speeding? Why? Georgia's had, 20, 25, 28 arrests in the last 3 years just off of speeding? Stop speeding. Stop getting in trouble. Stay out of trouble. Stay on the roster. Because Georgia did deal with a lot of injuries last year too. And so, I don't want to take a whole lot away from them. And it just goes to show how impressive they were. Even facing injuries and suspension, they were still able to win an SEC championship game. But with the SEC being so wide open this year, I think teams have, caught up to Georgia with the NIL and transfer portal. Teams are not really being able to stack players anymore. And I think SEC teams are able to, kind of compete with Georgia now. They're more of on their level, competition-wise and talent-wise. And so Georgia needs all the players that they can get this year. And if they're constantly getting in trouble still for speeding, crashing into an apartment, or doing whatever, Georgia's going to have a really rough time this year. And this might be the biggest con of them all. And I call this the honeymoon phase, where you're so in love with what they're doing now that it kind of covers the red flags from last year. And I saw the red flags. And this is how I think that a lot of teams are keeping up with talent and competition-wise. You won last year, but in ugly fashion. Like, really bad fashion. And, again, we can go to, schedule being hard. We can go to the night games. We can go to players were injured or arrested. We can come up with all the excuses. Still, you won by 1 point at Kentucky. Night game, SEC, I get it. But the quarterback was Brock Vandagriff, who left Georgia to go to Kentucky. And you won by 1 point. He ended up retiring during the season. And Georgia won by 1 point to Kentucky. And then on top of that, I know the score was close, but let's remember, Georgia was down 28-0 to Alabama. At Alabama. Again, SEC championship or SEC game at night at Alabama. But you didn't even put up a fight. In the second half, Alabama was on cruise control, which is why Georgia was able to catch up. And Carson Beck, put up garbage time numbers in the second half. And they eventually took the lead 34-33, but then you let Ryan Williams just make a play, one of the best plays of the year, and you lost that game. And then you lost to Ole Miss, which Georgia fans, for some reason, hate Lane Kiffin. They keep talking about how Lane Kiffin can't beat a 9-win team, but yet you went to Ole Miss and you got beat. You were only able to put up 10 points in that loss, while Ole Miss scored 28. That was a whooping. Georgia Tech went into 8 overtimes at Georgia. It was at Georgia. And you went into 8 overtimes. Receivers dropping balls, Carson Beck making mistakes. It was ugly. Georgia ended up winning, but you're supposed to be so much better than Georgia Tech. The blue chip talent that Georgia has over Georgia Tech is a big spread. It's not even close. It's a big spread. You're supposed to dominate Georgia Tech. And yet, you won by 2 points in 8 overtimes. Let's not even bring up the fact that DJ Lagway got hurt in the first quarter. Hamstring injury. He was out. For 3 quarters, Florida didn't even have Graham Mertz. So Florida was playing with a third-string quarterback, which they didn't even call him by his name. They called him that guy from, whatever other school that he came from. And Carson Beck, I think, was purposely trying to throw that game away. 3 interceptions in that game. Florida had it tied in the fourth quarter at one point. And Georgia fans could, we still whooped y'all by 2 touchdowns. Garbage time touchdowns again. But the game was tied in the fourth quarter with a third-string quarterback. Imagine if DJ Lagway didn't get hurt. Georgia's probably losing that game. Georgia played awful. And again, this is all the honeymoon phase. Did Georgia win the SEC? Yes. Was this probably the best coaching job Georgia's ever done with a down season like last year? Yes. Great. But let's not cover the red flags of what happened last year. All the close victories, everything that happened last season. The SEC is covering all the red flags. The SEC championship game is covering all the red flags that happened last year. And so this is something that, we just got to be open to, Georgia fans. You guys are delusional. I'm going to say it. I think Georgia is going to struggle this year. I don't think Gunnar Stockton is the answer. I think other teams have caught up. Arch Manning at Texas. Ole Miss got a new quarterback who's supposedly supposed to be better than Jackson Dart. And Jackson Dart's about to start for the Giants. DJ Lagway at Florida. Auburn's got better talent. All right, prediction time. Now, what if I told you that Georgia going 10-2 last season, losing to Alabama and Ole Miss, both away games? What if I told you that them going 10-2, winning the SEC championship game, getting a first-round bye in the college football playoffs, and coming up short in the semifinals to Notre Dame? What if I told you that wasn't their down year? Would you agree with me? Would you disagree with me? What would you think? 10-2, winning the SEC championship game, and coming 1 game short of the national championship was not their down year. Georgia fans believe that this was their down year, yet they did everything possible, and they came one game short of a national championship. And they're calling it a down year. Now, maybe they're calling it a down year because they didn't dominate in the fashion that they are used to in previous years. Maybe they're calling it a down year because they lost to Alabama and they lost to Ole Miss. What if I told you that last year was not a down year because their down year is coming up? What if 2025 is the year that they struggle? You know, it's hard for teams to be dominant for so many years in a row, that 2025 will be the season Georgia struggles. Now, I'm not saying they're going to struggle for multiple seasons, but they're going to struggle. What if I told you that their ceiling is only 9 wins and they don't even make the SEC championship game this year? I think it's really possible, and this is the floor, but I would not be surprised, and I think it's very possible Georgia finishes 7-5 this year. That's right. I said it. People are going to call me delusional. People are going to think I'm crazy. People are going to think I'm trolling, clickbaiting. Call it what you want. I think Georgia Bulldogs will finish the season 7-5, or at best 8-4. It's just what I think. And if they're having a really great year, 9-3 is the ceiling. I think 9-3 is the ceiling. This is the year that is their quote-unquote down year. Georgia fans are delusional if they think last year was a down year. And Georgia will show you that, you know, you could be at the top for so long, but eventually you got to fall. And they're going to fall. And it's going to happen with losses to Alabama, at Auburn, Florida, and Texas. Those are the 4. See, I think their season, they're going to end up 8-4. They're just going to miss the college football playoffs. And those are the 4 losses I think Georgia will have this year. And I think there's going to be a lot of talk around Georgia this year. Will Mike Bobo stay another year? Will Georgia go in the transfer portal and find a quarterback? Because they didn't do that last year or this past season. You know, they're sticking with Gunnar Stockton. They do have Jared Curtis coming in. So this is the year Georgia struggles. This is the year Georgia does not make an SEC championship game. I still think they're going to have a winning record. 8-4 is a good record. You know, if Florida would have went 8-4 last year, I would have been very happy about that. So yeah, those are the 4 teams I think Georgia loses to. One that I struggle with, I think Ole Miss would be the other team that they lose to if they were to go 7-5. And again, I wouldn't be surprised if they go 7-5. Teams are catching up. The SEC is a lot more wide open this year with teams having brand new quarterbacks, Gunnar Stockton being the main one, you know, for Georgia, coming off an SEC championship win. And yeah, so I think teams are going to be a little bit more even matched. And I think all the close games that they had last year, the close calls, is going to come and it's going to bite them in the butt this year. And teams are going to finish against Georgia. And Georgia is not going to catch as many breaks. 8-4 is what I see them going this year and missing the SEC championship game and the college football playoffs. That's just my prediction. That's what I think is going to happen. And I'm not trolling. This is the year Georgia struggles. I call it right now. You can clip this, come back to it at the end of the season. This is what's going to happen. Georgia fans, get ready. I'm ready for the excuses that are about to come. And yeah, we'll see what happens at the end of the season. That's all that I have for Georgia today. Next week will be about Florida, and I will give my honest opinion about Florida because, trust me, just as much hype as they're getting, I have just as much doubts from previous seasons. So I'm going to be really tough on Florida. I'm going to give my honest opinion. And so, yeah, if you have any comments, let me know. Like and subscribe. Please share the page, and then let me know in the comments what team you want me to talk about. It's not just going to be SEC teams. It's going to be all the big teams that I think are going to be or who have a chance to be in the college football playoffs this year. So if you want to hear a team next, just let me know in the comments. Thank you.